You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. And it is a Charlie Tuesday as Auburn message board legend Charlie 5 joins us as he does every Tuesday. And I recorded yesterday's show a little before the Burt Watts news came out. So I want to jump into that first and foremost today. Doesn't seem like folks are too shaken up about this news. I think it's kind of a nod that maybe you're doing something potentially right when somebody in the NFL level wants you to take on a similar job. And so, of course, he will be joining the Denver Broncos to coach their outside linebacker position, a position they've been good at for a very long time. So, I don't think this is something that is devastating by any stretch of the imagination. I'm more concerned with the special teams coordinator tag that will be leaving the program. More so, just does Harsin give that responsibility to someone that's already on staff, or is that kind of something that he considers when he goes out to hire somebody?
Absolutely. So right off the top, I think that Burt Watts is an unbelievable X's and O's guy. I don't think anybody has ever really questioned a lot of the stuff that these guys, the abilities these guys have from an X and O perspective. To me, I'm not sure if I can tag one recruit to his name outside of maybe the kicker, Alex McPherson, which is, great kicker. Brother played in the Super Bowl on Sunday. But maybe Eku Leota. I think he maybe had a little bit to do with that one, but didn't seem to make a whole lot of headway on the recruiting trail. Maybe he didn't have enough time. Maybe that position was not a super position of need. So he was just sort of, left without a whole lot of targets. But it stinks to lose a coach to the NFL because right off the bat, like you said, they're a good coach. They don't take scrubs in the NFL. I'm anxious to see what they do with special teams as well. Do you let Christian Robinson and Jimmy Brumbaugh kind of split the duties with the edges and then go hire a legit special teams coach and let him be a baller recruiter, or do you try to go get a another big time recruiting guy to cover that position? There's a lot of different options, and I'm curious with the way the tone's sort of maybe shifting a little bit. I'm curious to see the direction that he goes, because I think it may say a lot as far as.
So what do you think? What do you mean by that? If whoever they hire, will it be a guy that's kind of known for recruiting? Is that what you're hinting towards?
Well, I would hope that there's some positive things being said in that department. Maybe some eyes were opened. So do we go in that talk? Talk is cheap. What actions do we see? Mm-hmm. And we've seen him. He made Zach Etheridge when I'm talking about I'm talking about Hars. I'm just gonna call him Hars now from now on. I just like that nickname, and I coach Harsin. I just don't. So I'm just gonna go with Hars. Hars put a priority on Zach Etheridge. Zach Etheridge is a star. He's an up and coming, what I think will more than likely be a head coach in the next, 5 or 6 years, possibly.
Right.
And he's a stud. He made him a priority. Recruiting's a priority. And then possibly giving him the associate head coach tag, which Burt Watts had. So look out for that. And then, you got 2 more positions that you got to fulfill. One being what route do you go? Do you go recruiting, or do you go safe buddy guy that I've worked with before? And I'm curious to see what happens there.
Yeah, and I think we'll be able to look at both of the positions that are currently open and kind of get more information about that, both with outside linebackers / special teams coordinator, as well as offensive coordinator. And I think people listen and be like, well, offensive coordinator, like that's not the same thing. And normally I think that's true, but if this is going to be Harsin's offense and he plans on, calling the plays, like just go get an awesome stud recruiter at that point. Like if Harsin is essentially going to be your offensive coordinator, just go get a hotshot quarterbacks coach, give him the OC title so you can pay him a little bit more. Maybe he has more sway in recruiting, but I'm cool with that. Like I'm cool with that moving forward. And then, do whatever you need to do as far as getting a hot shot recruiter. If you want to just name him special teams coach, and then also just kind of give him a million different kids to touch on, as far as visits every single week. Like, I am totally fine with that route. But yeah, like you said, this will decide, or this will kind of show a little bit as far as what he is thinking about this next version of his staff.
I don't think that if it's not someone that's very well known for recruiting, that it's a statement that that's not that's not going to be a priority. I'm not saying that if he doesn't hire somebody that's well known or has a lot of potential to be a great recruiter, that he's basically saying, no, I'm not recruiting this. I'm not saying that at all. I just think that this is an opportunity to say, see here, we're going all out. Talent acquisition is key. And I think that would make a big statement if it were to materialize that way.
Right. We'll see though. We will see.
Absolutely.
But yeah, as far as on the field from 21 to 22, are you expecting a whole lot, as far as this impacting, outside linebackers? I mean, we talked about, that position as far as guys with their hands off the line. They're going to have to change a good bit with linebacking core, but as far as like edge guys, a lot of those guys are coming back.
True.
Do you think it's going to have a big impact?
It could. I mean, think about this. TD Moultrie was a non-factor until basically these guys came along, and then it radically changed his game. And I'll be honest, Derek Hall, for the most part, was physically a freak, physically very gifted. But he really didn't make his impact felt on the field until this past year. So was that Burt Watts? Was that scheme? Not 100% sure, but
it's such a tricky position because it's like, okay, I think they do some stuff with outside linebackers. They do some stuff with the defensive line. So it's like, was that an Eason thing? Or, is it Derek Mason just kind of unlocking these dudes' potential as far as, putting them in the right place? So
right.
That position, it's so tricky and it's so specific, with that stud, that, the stand-up defensive end that we've seen.
Right.
I imagine we're not going to see that much of a difference from Derek Mason to Jeff Schmedding from a scheme standpoint.
Sure.
Just a guess. I think schematically it's going to be very similar. He's just kind of elevating, his position there from linebackers coach to a defensive coordinator. So I think the continuity on the defensive side of the ball is going to be fine. I'm not, and this is no disrespect to Burt Watts. I don't think it's going to be a big difference, as far as, that impacting that position.
And that's probably fair. A lot of the, kids in general, they get better every year. So, maybe a lot of that was just Derek Hall sort of just develop, another year in the system, another year playing and learning and figure out what he can do, getting bigger and stronger. So that could have had a lot to do with it too. You just continuity wise, you lose your defensive coordinator and you lose your outside linebackers coach who elevated, and whether it was those two combined, one or the other, they're both gone. And the play from the edge was extremely elevated this past year. So can we still get that kind of production out of these next couple hires? Well, that's what I'm looking for.
Right. Absolutely. It is a Charlie Tuesday here on Locked On Auburn. Football season is over. Very, very sad, but congratulations to Blank Countess and Rams GM Les Need, War Eagle to both of them. But there's still tons of things to check out at BetOnline for latest odds, totals, player performance, props to the next coach is fired is going to land. BetOnline.net is the number one spot for all of your sports betting needs, with college basketball, professional basketball, as well as hockey, boxing, UFC odds. Even if you're into the Olympics, betonline.net has you covered. Head to their website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and the action. BetOnline, where the game starts. Charlie 5, this has already been an extremely interesting offseason,
to say the least.
What do you think the next step? What is the next saga that will happen before we get spring practice? Or does everything lay low? Do we have a quote-unquote normal offseason until players report back for spring practice in a few weeks?
So I think the storyline between now and spring practice will be, we'll probably really see if. Let me try to see if I can phrase this right. I
Okay.
think basically I want to see if we maintain everyone that's currently on the roster going into spring. So
Okay.
no more portal casualties. That's going to be something to look out for.
Right.
And then there's two guys that are out there that Jontavius Johnson and Joko Willis that we're not 100% sure one way or the other what the deal is with them. And one of the things that's hindering Jontavius Johnson is that he went into the portal on February 2nd. And if you enter the portal after February 1st, you cannot enter intra-conference. I think I said that right. Inter or intra-conference transfer and be immediately eligible. Which one would it be? Interconference? You can't transfer inside the conference after February 1st and play immediately next year. So
I don't think I realized that.
he's in the portal now. The talk was Ole Miss, Ole Miss, Ole Miss. He hasn't gone there yet. He doesn't really have that option without a waiver,
Without losing a year. Yeah.
without losing a year. So, what happens with those two guys? Do we have anyone else go in? How significant is that? And then I think the next is obviously going to be spring practice. The news you hear about Calzada coming out, he's going to be out. He's going to be limited a little bit with his non-throwing shoulder surgery.
Right.
What kind of stuff do we see out of practice? I think that's going to be the next story. And then afterwards, after spring's over, it's going to be finishing out this team for 2022, adding probably 10 spots from the portal. And, can we be a lot more aggressive on that? Can we do the things we need to do? Are we willing to do the things we need to do to make sure that we fill those 10 spots with not just bodies, but people that can actually
You think
play.
they add 10 more dudes in the portal?
Everything I've read says look for 10 more spots. That's everything I've read. Everything.
There are 8 scholarships. Some places I've seen say 7, and I've seen some people say 8. I think there's some questions about some of the scholarship guys, but
so they're expecting at least 3 or 4 more spots to obviously for attrition, I guess, is what they're expecting. Or maybe you can count some back. Maybe some of it can count back, but still it has to be under the 85. So
yeah. I mean, we are so far away from the number this year because we didn't get to 25, and then also we get that extra 7 because so many dudes left. So
right,
we will not touch that number. It's all about staying under the
85.
Yeah.
Yep. So I think, like I said, the next storyline to watch between now and spring is do we regain any of the guys that we've lost in the portal that haven't committed other places, or do we lose anybody between now and then in spring? I think that's going to be the thing to watch.
You would have to think that the next bit of portal casualties that any team gets, I'm going to say Auburn specifically here because it's an Auburn show, but I would think anywhere, it wouldn't happen until after spring. Because why wouldn't you go through spring? Because you're not going to be able to participate in spring somewhere else unless you're worried about spots closing up at other places. But I imagine most places are similar to Auburn's situation where it's it's not even about the class, getting to 25 anymore. It's all about the staying under 85 as a team. So I can't see that being that big of an issue.
I agree with you. I think the biggest bunch of casualties that, if we have any, would be after spring if they're not really satisfied where they stand on the depth chart. The only other option, if we lose anybody before spring, and I'm going positive right now. Okay, I'm being positive as I can, but this is reality. If there's some holdovers, then maybe we're waiting to see what happens with Hars and the staff moving forward, and maybe they weren't as happy with the results as others, and a opportunity arises between now and spring. That would be really the only other option I would see, because I think everybody else, like you said, would wait until after spring, see where they land, see how they like this new this new deal we're going through. And if it's something they want to continue with, see where they shake out. And if they don't like where they shake out, then they head to greener pastures.
Because, I mean, if I'm the player that's on the fence and I don't know if people are on the fence, like kind of like what you're hinting at there. I don't know, but you would think that both sides of the ball will have new coordinators. And so, I mean, if you're a dude that maybe spent more time on the two deep than you thought, the second string, you've got a chance now to come in and compete against, new in front of new coordinators and fight for jobs. Like this could be a really prime spring for Bryan Harsin, where it just kind of worked out in his favor because you're going to be able to pitch all these guys like, hey, these jobs are open, especially on the offensive line, especially in the defensive backfield, especially with linebacker who's going to compete for that job next to Owen. I mean, there's a ton of open jobs. And the fact that you're going to be able to do this in front of new coordinators on both sides of it is great. I think it's great for competition, which has been the big thing that you and I have talked about from the get-go, is cultivating as much competition as possible. And so I just, if you're thinking about leaving, like, I don't know, like, why would you do it now? Why wouldn't you wait until after spring? So I think this is a prime situation for Auburn. I think it's a prime situation for these coaches to, prove, that there is opportunity here to these kids. Yeah. But after spring, I mean, Auburn will have guys leave. Alabama will have guys leave. Georgia will have guys all over the country will leave. I mean, it's going to be a crazy exodus of players. And so,
guys from like smaller schools will watch some of that are good players. Will watch some of the bigger school spots open up and say, hey, I may want to try to level up. I may want to, this is maybe a time I see a chance I could slide in somewhere. Let me go in the portal. And, there's going to be, somebody like this. Right. There's going to be guys like that too. So not just disgruntled guys. There could be some guys that are still some guys that were, maybe wanted to see some other roster spots open up so they could maybe slide into a school of interest.
Totally. Charlie 5, what do you have going on these days? Tell the people how they can find you here. You support you, all that good stuff.
Absolutely, man. You can find me on Twitter at _Charlie_5, the Auburn Live message board, The Corner, or in the Locked On Auburn Discord. I'm there hours a day. It's a ton of fun. Links in the show notes or whatever. And then Monday, Wednesday, Friday on the Dad Bod Golf Pod.
Awesome. That is Charlie 5 joining us as he does every week for a Charlie Tuesday. We will hear from Auburn guard Zep Jasper in just a moment. But first, I got to tell you that this episode of Locked On Auburn is brought to you by Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it's impossible to keep all the parts that you need for all these different cars in these brick-and-mortar traditional chain storefronts. So why go through the questioning and, you got to talk to people and deal with people and, answer some questions that you may not be super confident about. Look, all they're going to do is just order the part and then you got to go pick it up. Why don't you just do it yourself? Skip the middleman, save a ton of money by going to rockauto.com, and you'll see that their prices are very competitive and reasonable, and the part will go right to your door. So go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car, your truck, or your SUV. And please write Locked On Auburn in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliable low prices, and all the parts your car will ever need at rockauto.com. And joining us now, Auburn guard Zep Jasper. Zep, we missed you last week. Everybody was worried and concerned. How you feeling?
I'm feeling great. Back 100%, back healthy. I'm glad to be back on here. I missed it last week. I hated that I missed it last week. I felt real bad not being able to talk on here, but I'm ready for today just to talk about basketball and the latest upcoming things.
Of course, man. Of course. So I got to ask, how tough was it to, I guess in Georgia, you made the trip and then I guess you watched from the hotel room, and then I'm sure for Arkansas, you watched from your apartment or your house or whatever. How tough was that?
I'm gonna be 100%, 100 with you. Georgia game was very tough for me. I had a lot of family there. I'm from Georgia. So Georgia was a big game for me, just coming in, be able to see my family. Actually, a lot of people surprised me that they came to the game and they was wondering where I was at. But it was tough, because, the whole game we was beating Georgia. In the second half Georgia just get this big spark. And then a 3 start scoring baskets. They start getting energy from the crowd and and we end up winning that game by 1 point but it was a tough game. I was in my bed like, oh my God, please don't lose. Please don't lose. And then we go to, we got another tough road game against Arkansas. We had that game, but, a couple of mistakes, we ended up losing that game. But that game there was even more tough for me because, I would have been on their best player, been guarding their best player. And I just was watching film that whole week because I thought I would be, back good. But,
Right.
end up being back straight, before, in time enough. But, to see them, they fans go crazy after they win and run on the court. The coach taking off their shirt. I just ain't respect a lot of stuff they did, and with me being, watching the game from my apartment, sitting up in my room, it kind of made me mad a little bit because it seems like, y'all won, y'all beat us, but it's like you didn't have to throw shots at my coach. You didn't have to do some of the stuff y'all did. It's just like, I know we got a big target on our back, but, it's still a basketball game. We'll still see y'all again. If they win, we'll see them again. And it just made me mad on the inside, and it just hurt me because I feel like I could have been out there to help my team. And I hope we play Arkansas again in the conference tournament. I feel like it put fuel to the fire, and I feel like it makes things more chippier.
Yeah, no question about it. And so what about their celebration really rubbed you the wrong way? Was it more of them storming the court? Was it the comments and, Coach Musselman kind of going after Bruce, like you said? What was it specifically that rubbed you the wrong way?
It was the comments, that they said about my teammates, and it was the comments where he said like throwing shots at my coach. You throw shots at my boss, my CEO. That hurts me too. That's my leader.
Yeah.
Bruce Pearl, that's our man. That's our guy. That's my coach, my head coach.
Mm-hmm.
And you throw shots at my head coach like that, and I'm a player, I play for him. I don't do disrespect to my coach. No matter who you are, what you do, my coach, that's who I love. That's who I play for. So I'm going to be behind him 100%, whether it's good or bad. So the things they did, it rubbed me the wrong way. Standing on top of the stuff, celebrating. They beat us, it was, and see fans on Twitter saying, oh, y'all want to beat us again. It just put a lot of fuel inside me, even when I was sick.
Sure.
It made me pop out that bed and just say, forget it. I ain't going to be sick no more. I ain't going to be sick, but, we got to take an L. We got to take an L sometimes and, realize, a lot of people, want to beat us. A lot of people want to be in this position. A lot of people want to be at Auburn. They want to win. They want to beat us. So I think it was good that we, took an L, early. It's good to take L's early on. After 19-game win streak, we made history. So,
no question.
It'd be, perfect and good that we got this win. Got this L, early.
So you've only been able to see Coach Pearl coach you guys after a loss once so far this season. What does he do to make sure, you don't waste the loss, that you don't waste the lessons and things like that? How has he kind of looked and said, okay, this is what happened when you guys went to Arkansas. Here's how we make sure that doesn't happen again. What does that look like?
Well, the thing is about Coach BP, he makes sure you're well prepared, whether you win or you lose.
Yeah.
But on our losses, he makes sure we come in and practice the next day and tell us we ain't going to do the same thing we did that made us lose this game. We're going to come even harder to let people know. We're going to make a statement to let people know that, we might have lost, but we are still Auburn. We're still who we are. We still have a target on our back. A lot of people still want to beat us. We still got a lot of people, a lot of coaches mad. So we got to make sure we come back. And we did that against Texas A&M and made a statement to let people know we might have lost at Arkansas, but we're going to bounce back. We're going to get back to what we do best, and that's playing Auburn basketball.
So when you're on the floor with a guy like Walker Kessler and, the guy is turning into, when he doesn't get a triple-double, he gets pretty close. But the fact that he's got his second triple-double of the season, are you guys counting that when he gets close? When it's like, okay, he needs 2 more rebounds. Going to get 2 more rebounds. Are you guys looking at that kind of in real time?
I look at it myself.
Yeah.
I look at it myself because I want to see Walker Kessler succeed. He's a great guy. He's a humble guy. And I want nothing but the best for him. You will never see a guy like Walker Kessler on this basketball court. You might not see many people in college basketball does what he does. He's just one of those guys you just want to You just want the best for him. You want the most for him. You know, he deserves everything that's coming his way. He works super hard. He's a humble guy. And, you know, I just look at the boy. I look at it and say, he need one more rebound. Make sure he get that one rebound. Please get that one rebound, because I feel like once he has success, I have success too.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's just one of those type of teammates. He's a brother. He's a dude I would call my brother my whole life. No matter if we was playing basketball or not, I'm going to always be there for Walker no matter what.
You guys take on Vanderbilt Wednesday. They have not been playing well once conference play hit. How are you guys prepping for them?
We're gonna watch some film today. Review everything they do, what they do on offense, what they do on defense, and they got a great player, Scottie Pippen's son, Scottie Pippen Jr. Yeah. He's a scorer. But I don't think he has ran up on a defense like Auburn yet.
Will you be on him, Zep?
Oh, no doubt. I'm back 100%. So I'll make sure, you know, he have a rough night. Make sure you feel everything that's in this Auburn arena, from the fans to the players and everyone. But they're a great team. They're a great offensive team. Not really a great defense team, but they're great on offense.
Sure. And then as far as the trip to Gainesville, that one's going to be tricky. I mean, Auburn historically hasn't played well in Gainesville. And, Florida was a little closer than a lot of people thought. I think there was a couple of bogus fouls on Walker early that kind of limited his time throughout the game. But how are you guys prepping for another road trip?
Well, you always know road trips are going to be the hardest games.
Yeah.
They always are going to be hard. Florida's going to come to play tough, physical. They want to beat us just like any other team. And we're just going to come in with the mindset of we have to win. We have to win on out. No matter what is said, no matter what is done. I don't care if we win by 1 point, 2 point, 3 point. We have to win on out. We have to show people that we're not playing no more games. You know, we might have lost 2 games. Oh, forget those 2 games. We're 0-0 right now. Yeah. So we have to show people why we're going to be the SEC conference champions in the regular season and going into the SEC championship and things like that, the SEC conference, and let them know, like, we're going to be that number 1 seed. We're number 1 for a reason.
Right. Zep, what is happening in practice regarding 3-point shooting? I mean, normally Bruce Pearl teams are, close to the top of the SEC. You guys are finding ways to score, but it's not really from behind the arc. Is that by design? Is that something that's still being worked on in practice? What does that look like?
Well, I seen the numbers of the past like 5 or 6 games. The numbers been low, but we've been having guys in the gym, lately, working on their jumpers, and I just think some games just gonna be off. But if I was had to figure it out, I think it's the basketballs we're playing with. I think it's too much air in the basketballs, and when it come off hard, when you shoot, you have to go straight in. Other than when the basketballs are kind of soft a little bit, it kind of can give a little bit of bounce. But with the basketballs being so hard, it's kind of like you gotta shoot it straight in the net, or if not, it's not gonna work.
Sure, right, absolutely. Well, man, hey, best of luck with these next 2 games. So thankful and happy that you're back, and we'll get to chat again next week.
No doubt, man. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Zep. Thank you so much to message board legend Charlie 5. That does it for today's show. We will be back tomorrow right here on Locked On Auburn. See you then.